Hey, it's been forever. Welcome to the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update for today, Monday, August the 26th, 2024. I've been traveling. Just finished up a whirlwind tour. The beautiful I went to Oklahoma. So whatever states we passed through in our travels, we obviously drove through Washington, where I live, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, came back up through Kansas, Nebraska, back through Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, back home to my beautiful home in the the Pacific Northwest. They call it the Inland Empire. Inland Northwest, Inland Empire. I guess down in Los Angeles, don't they call it something there, the Inland Empire as well? I don't know. All these empires are confusing. I will say this. I do not have a wimpy Coach Prime Deion Sanders policy in place, right? If you want to criticize, if you want to send hate mail, if you want to send insults, I'm all about it. I don't have a problem with that. So I'd love to hear from you. You can chime in live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and the X. I'd love to hear from you. But just let me a quick update on our trip, our visit. We did a live and dangerous, I think last Tuesday or Wednesday night. We were joined by a good friend of mine and former coworker. He was my boss for a while when I was still in radio. Eric Sharam. We got together. He bought me lunch. Great guy. Bought me lunch while I was there, and then he kind of took me on a tour of the facilities. He is the owner, operator, chief bottle washer of the Oklahoma Sports Network. Now, let me just explain what this is. Probably other states you have similar things in your state, maybe not. But the Oklahoma Sports Network is a streaming platform. It's a TV network, but it's all streaming, right? So it's on Roku, it's on Fire Stick, it's on any you could watch it Apple TV, right? So and that's the way I watch all my TV now. I don't have cable; it's all streaming, right? So I have the Oklahoma Sports Network right on my TV. I click on the little icon. Website is oksportsnet.com. Check it out, even if you're not from Oklahoma. Oklahoma, by the way, it's like Texas. Well, it's connected to Texas. It's not like I would get in bad trouble if I were to say that in front of my Oklahoma or Texas friends. Oklahoma and Texas are completely different, but they're kind of exactly the same. What am I getting at? Football. Football is huge. High school football is huge. College football, huge, obviously. Well, the Oklahoma Sports Network is this growing network of high schools throughout the state, and then they broadcast all their sports. Football's the big one, of course, but they do basketball, football, or I already said football, basketball, baseball, volleyball. They also do some colleges. So it's a growing sports network. And I got to tell you, on Friday nights, a lot of Friday nights during football season, I watch my old alma mater, the Lawton High Wolverines, home of the champions. I watch the live football games. And my friend Eric is he and I go way back in broadcasting. We met each other, I think, in '89. Worked at KKRX in Southwest Oklahoma, and I left that for another station, Magic 95 in Lawton, Oklahoma. Went back a couple years later and worked for Eric when he was the program director at KKRX. So we've known each other for a long time. Eric hit me up a few years ago, and he said, "Hey, would you like to do some voiceovers on the Oklahoma Sports Network?" I said, "Sure." So for the last few years, I actually do voiceovers for OSN. If you watch OSN, you'll hear yours truly doing commercials or liners or whatever for the Oklahoma Sports Network. And so where's all this going? Well, I met Eric for lunch, got a tour of the studio there. DMAC 1971, thanks for chiming in. Everything frozen on my end. I hope that's not the case for everyone. DMAC, let me know if it's working again, just so we know. It looks like it's working okay on my end. But if you would let me know if that clears up. But thanks for chiming in, DMAC. Thank you so much. So he gave me the tour, and then he showed me where he records his podcast. It's a really cool studio. And I said, hey, Eric, I thought about this after I left because I never think about good things in the moment. It's always later when it's already too late. Well, anyways, I call him back. I say, hey, Eric, what would be the chances of us doing because I had planned while I'm down in Oklahoma with my partner, JR. Many of you have heard him on the podcast or seen him on the other Live and Dangerous episodes. What are the chances we could just record it right in the OSN studio there? He said, absolutely. So if you watch the Live and Dangerous we did last week, I didn't post it as a podcast, as an audio podcast, because there were some issues with the mic. You can still hear it, but basically what was happening is our nice mics weren't being recorded. You were just hearing like the room mic. And so you can hear it fine. It's just not as good a quality. And so I didn't want to post that as a podcast, but it was a great episode of Live and Dangerous. We talked about radio. Eric goes way back, worked in radio over 40 years, and has, recently been doing this Oklahoma Sports Night, but he's a big fan of the classic rock. And we had a great talk about radio. Of course, JR was there. It was a great conversation. So I would just recommend you go to the YouTube channel or go back. We were having problems with Facebook too, so it wouldn't post to Facebook. So, but it is on X. It is on YouTube. You can watch that episode, Live and Dangerous, from last week. It was a great visit, right? So I got to see JR, my partner. Also got to see my good friend who often chimes in here, Will. Spent some time with Will. Shout out to Will. Shout out to the great men and women of the Lawton Police Department. I went down and visited Will and said hi to several folks down there as well. It was just a great trip. And DMAC, thanks for letting me know. Looks like it's all good on your end. Thank you so much for joining us here today too. So it was a great trip, great visit. So glad that I was able to go down and see Will and JR and of course Eric. And I can't wait so long to do that again. And so let me just throw this out there. I know you've thought about this. As we get older, it's even more important that we reach out to our good friends, right? My friend Will said this, and it really made me think. He said, at this rate, at the rate that we see each other, him living way down in Oklahoma, me living up here in Washington State, at the rate that we visit each other, he says, we have less than 40 hours together until one of us dies. Whoa, that was heavy, but he's right. And so what's my point? Well, make the time to visit the people in your life that are important to you, because time's going quick. Time goes by. I don't mean to be so heavy. Sorry. But that was, I had never really thought about it that way. And he was exactly right. So those people that are important in your life, make sure you reach out to them and see them, and don't wait so long to visit them. Impart, Superdome, Count Rizula. Impart, thank you for joining us. I hope you have fun here today. Anyways, let's get to our update. I'm a little fired up today about some things. I'll try and keep it under control, but let's see what we can do. David Gilmour made a splash here a couple weeks ago, early in the promotional cycle for his new album. His new album's coming up, Luck and Strange. And he said he described it as the best album he's made since Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Now, I mean, that's something, because many people consider Dark Side of the Moon the greatest album ever. It's a great album. Is it the best ever? I don't know. Well, he backed off a little off of that, and he says this. He said, it's a flip statement, really. I mean, it's not like Dark Side of the, he says, let me start over. It's a flip statement, really. This is Gilmour talking to Rolling Stone. I mean, it's not like Dark Side of the Moon is even my favorite album. I think I prefer Wish You Were Here. Anyway, it feels to me like it's the best thing I've done in more or less my living memory, because some of those things feel like they were someone else back in those eons ago. I was in my 30s when Roger left our little pop group, and I'm 78. So uh, there it is. Luck and Strange, it's coming out September 6th. There was an advanced single, The Piper's Call, if you remember back in April, and more singles and concert dates followed after that. This is, let's see, the last album he had was in 2015, Rattle That Lock, which was I never heard the whole album, but the stuff I did hear from it, I liked. It sounded pretty good. But Gilmour, whenever you talk about Gilmour, you know you're going to talk about Roger Waters. So they just one goes with the other. This is from Ultimate Classic Rock. He says, Gilmour turned a few more heads when he indicated an unwillingness to return to estranged bandmate Roger Waters era songs during the upcoming shows. He says, I think I will be doing one or two things from that time, but it just seems so long ago. I know people love them and I love playing them. I'll be doing Wish You Were Here, of course. Some of the things that started with me anyway. So perennial favorite, Comfortably Numb, will quite likely appear, but I don't think I'll be doing Money, Gilmour admits, before adding, if that's your reason for coming. So if you're only going to see Money, he's probably not going to do it. But you know, he didn't really want to get into the whole thing about Roger. Roger's a complicated figure. Oftentimes complicated is a buzzword for a-hole. I mean, I'm not saying that, but you know, okay. Roger's surly. He's very outspoken about things that get him into trouble. The two don't really get along. So anyways, yeah. So he's not super excited about doing the Roger era stuff, but he's got to do something. I mean, you got to do Comfortably Numb and Wish You Were Here. So he'll be doing those. So don't worry about that. I wonder if he'll be doing like another Brick in the Wall. I don't know. Okay, another great 70s band. Yes, they've undergone these reissues. Are you familiar with this? So Steven Wilson creates new Dolby Atmos and 5.1 surround mixes of the classic Yes albums from the 70s. But Steve says he's still listening to the originals. He says, quote, there are different mixes and they all have their different values. And maybe it's the time I should confess that for me, the original mixes are the original mixes. It's not possible to surpass them. They're the end. Stop. I was there. I know the differences. They're incredibly small, incredibly slight, but to my ear, I can tell. So he, you know, think about the whole debate of CDs versus albums. You know, vinyl, of course, having a big comeback. Well, there's no doubt that CDs, a digital format, is, what's the word I can use here, is more clean, more clear. However, most of us prefer, I shouldn't say most, I shouldn't speak for all of you. Many of us prefer the warmer sound of analog, of an album, of an LP, the vinyl, the actual noise that you get from the vinyl. There's just something about that many of us, I'd rather listen to a vinyl LP on a good stereo than a CD, or however we listen now, digital. And here's another thing I've noticed about kids. I noticed it playing with other musicians, right? I play in a dad band. I play guitar, and it finally came to me playing with some younger guys and tweaking in guitar sounds. And again, I can't say that this applies to everyone, but it seems to be a pattern when I play with you. And when I say younger, I'm talking like guys under like 30, maybe. You get together with young guys and play, and they dial in a sound on their guitar, which to me sounds like buzzing mosquitoes, right? I don't like the sound. And then they're not real wild about my sound. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that? And you know what I think it is? I think that those of us from our generation, we're used to listening on big stereos, right? That's what we like. We'd have a big stereo, our record player, our cassettes, whatever, we're playing them through a big stereo through speakers, just a bigger sound. Where my kids, younger people, and my oldest is 30, almost 31. So I've played with musicians that age. You know what they listen to music on is they've grown up listening at earbuds, right? Or listening just on their phone. And so they don't have the same listening experience that we grew up with where we listen loud, right? They listen on little tinny devices. And I thought maybe that's why to them a good guitar sound sounds this way, because that's the way they're hearing. I don't know. I could be wrong. What do you think about that? Shoot me an email, classicguitarrock@mail.com. But Steve Howe, he's a bigger fan of the original mix than the new high-tech Star Wars mix. So I haven't heard the new Atmos or 5.1 surround sound mix. So I can't weigh in intelligently on that. But I will say I like vinyl over digital for whatever that's worth. Okay, Heart. Let me talk about Heart for a minute and at the same time shamelessly plug Classic Guitar Rock Radio. If you're not listening to Classic Guitar Rock Radio, you're missing out. Let me read this quote. Hang on, here's a quote. Dear CGR, I recently listened to Classic Guitar Rock Radio for 3 days on a long cross-country trip. I can honestly say this is the best radio station I've ever heard. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I wrote that myself. But the point is, if you listen to Classic Guitar Rock Radio, you will go, wow, this is great. This is a great station. I'm not trying to brag, but it is. So here's my point. Several times over, I said 3 days, 6 days, 3 days down, 3 days back, listening to Classic Guitar Rock the whole way. I won't lie. There were some dead spots where I didn't have coverage, so I couldn't listen for a while. But because it's a online radio station. Before I get to this, I mentioned my friend Will. Will is checking in again. Will knows, and we talked about this, and he understands the gag order that we have on Will when he chimes in. But I have to say, it was awesome, Will, to see you, to see Rachel, to spend time. Rachel cooked us dinner one night. We had steak and potato. It was awesome. My boys went over to his house and swam. Will took me on a tour of the police department, and it was awesome. I met some cool guys there, met the chief of police. Just a great visit. But Will's not allowed to say anything on the podcast. I mean, that's just the rules. And he's okay with that. He's accepted that. So, Will, thank you so much for everything last week. And we're going to get together more soon. More soon? Whatever. Yeah, it was awesome. So as I'm going down and back to Oklahoma and back, I'm listening to Classic Guitar Rock Radio. I heard a lot of Heart songs. I play a lot of Heart on that station. And if all you know of Heart is the 80s stuff, and I'm not bagging on that. It was great stuff, from the Brigade album and Bad Animals. Was that the name of one of their albums? I think it was. Big, huge hits. Massively successful in the 80s. Okay, it's good. But if you go back and listen to the 70s Heart, Dreamboat Annie and Dog and the Butterfly and all, they are one of the greatest rock bands of the 70s. They're super good. I mean, not just Ann and Nancy, they're awesome, but the band was just solid. And they had so many great songs. Where's this leading up to? Wheels Are in Motion. This is according to Classic Rock or Ultimate Classic Rock. Wheels Are in Motion on what could be Heart's next release. So they're talking, the sisters for a while were estranged. There was, disharmony in the camp. Will chimes back. Enjoyed it, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Tucker also chiming in. He says, today's new rock metal doesn't sound right to the way 80s rock metal sounds. Old tunes are far better. There's no guitar solo in new rock and metal. And that's another thing, man. I miss guitar solos. I do. I miss guitar solos. Thank you, Tucker. Appreciate you chiming in. But this next Heart album, they're talking about an acoustic album. This is Nancy. She says, quote, this is on an interview with UCR's Matt Wardlaw. Nancy says, quote, we're actually in talks about an acoustic album while we're waiting to go back out on the tour, which I think it'd be just a perfect use of our time. Because me and the band guys could not put these acoustic Heart songs together in ways that are kind of an unexpected way of doing and hearing Heart songs fresh again. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. She said, because me and the band guys could put these acoustic Heart songs together in ways that are kind of an unexpected way of doing and hearing Heart songs. She wasn't clear on the timeline, but she said they could finish it before they go back out on the road. So think about the great Heart, well, Crazy on You. You think about that. It's one of the great acoustic intros ever. So I'd be all for a Heart acoustic album. I think that would be awesome. We've talked about the Creatures of the Night album from 1982. That was Kiss. Ace Frehley is on the album cover, but he doesn't play on the album. He might have played. He's in the video for Love It Loud. He's on his pictures on the album. I don't think he played on that album. Of course, Peter Criss was gone, so Eric Carr's on drums. But I remember when MTV came out in 81, where I lived, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which I also visited last week. We didn't have MTV until like the summer of 82. So summer of 82, when we first got MTV, I Love It Loud was all over. We watched that video all the time. Ace Frehley appears in the video, but he doesn't actually play on the album. Kiss actually brought in a bunch of different guitarists who played on that album. Robin Ford, can you believe that? Robin Ford played on that album on a couple songs. Steve Ferris, is that his name? The guy from Mr. Mister? I think he played on a few songs. So they brought in a lot of different guest musicians. Vinnie Vincent actually worked on that, but he didn't officially become a member of the band until after that album was released, but he played on some stuff. They also teamed up with various songwriters. One of them was, and here's where I'm getting to the point. I'm having problems getting to the point in today's update, but this is another point I'm getting to. Bryan Adams. This was pre Cuts Like a Knife. Okay, so this is before he started to be his own star, right? He teamed up with Kiss to write some songs. One of the songs he wrote with them was one of the best songs on the album, War Machine, which was still a concert staple right up to the very end with Kiss. Well, Bryan Adams has just released a video for his version of War Machine. And I watched it, and it's pretty good. To be honest, musically, it's very true to the Kiss version, not super different. Now, this is an interesting little thing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Again, you can email me, classicguitarrock@mail.com. You add a video to it, and that can either make the song better or worse. And I'm a Bryan Adams fan. This is not a critique of Bryan Adams. It's a critique of the power of music videos for good or for bad. So in my mind, the Kiss song War Machine, it's a heavy metal song, right? It's a heavy metal song. And it's just that. Yeah, it's called War Machine. I guess there's a message in there. But to me, it was just a great rock song that Kiss did. So now when I watch the video, it's the same song. Again, musically, not a whole lot different from the original. But now you add images, and it definitely now has become a message song. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I don't know what the answer is, but I know that the attaching the video makes it a lot heavier and more depressing, right? And maybe that's his point. So if it is, then that's probably a good thing. But it also, because it makes it heavier and more depressing, I don't enjoy the song as much. Because let's be honest, with Kiss, you weren't thinking about anything heavy or depressing. It was just a rock song, right? Now, and even Bryan Adams, he's a pop guy, right? So now all of a sudden you're hearing this song, you're seeing the images. It's not a fun, it's about war. How fun can it be, right? But it's just, I'm kind of scratching my head like, do I like this video? Do I not like the video? That's the difference between adding video. When you're just hearing it, you're using your own imagination. When you commit it, when you attach it to a video, then all of a sudden you're taking the ability for people's theater of the mind to come into play when they hear a song. Is that good or is that bad? And to be honest, think of great songs that we knew growing up that had stupid or terrible videos. You can't help but thinking of those terrible videos when you hear that song. And it makes them way more dated too, by the way. It's just an interesting thing, interesting connection between the video and the audio. But if you haven't seen that video of Bryan Adams' War Machine, you might want to check it out so you know what I'm talking about. Lana is chiming in. Lana, so great to see you. So true. Kids will wear band t-shirts all day of talented guitar players, but they can't name one song. Okay, this is a trope that we talk about all the time, and it's so true. So true. You see some 14-year-old kid wearing a Led Zeppelin song, and you totally want to say, hey, name me 2 Led Zeppelin songs, right? But on the other hand, hey, it's cool. You know, they think Led Zeppelin's cool. So I kind of take that as a victory for us Gen Xers. But yeah, it is funny. It is funny that happens. Tucker says, so true. I have my Maiden t-shirt on today. Okay. So, hey, you guys see my, did I miss a comment here? I think I maybe did miss a comment, but I'm wearing my AC/DC shirt today. Okay. And I'm not going to lie. Walmart has a great selection of old rock shirts. If you want to they're like $9. Go get you some Gen X hard rock shirts. That's what I do. It's awesome. Lana, Tucker, thanks so much for chiming in. Just a little bit more on Bryan Adams. He's talking about working with them on Creatures of the Night. He says, I was thrilled to work with him back then. I was a broke songwriter. It came at the perfect time. While sitting with the band, Gene played me this fantastic bass riff, which ended up being the backbone of War Machine. He added, or then he says, I was trying to think of a theme that could possibly match the riff and came up with the title, which was actually an homage to a comic book character. Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Bryan Adams has now taken that song, which he said was inspired by a comic book character, added these images that are all about war, and it's kind of changed the mood of that song. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's different. Yeah, so that's very interesting. Lana says, I just bought an Eric Clapton shirt at Walmart. Good for you. Awesome. Tucker says, you can pay at a concert for AC/DC t-shirt. Walmart is a bargain. Oh, you can pay 45 pounds. I think that's what that means in England at a concert. Yeah. Get one at Walmart for $9.98 or $8.98 or whatever they are. Absolutely. It's way better deal. Here's another thing. This is how cheap I am. Go on like Temu or AliExpress and you can get shirts for like $5. Of course, I'm sure they're not legal. So I don't want to condone anything illegal, but yeah, you can find, here's the problem though. If I buy an XL, which is what I wear from Temu, it's going to be way too small. So if I'm ordering from Temu or AliExpress, I got to get like XXX t-shirts. I guess just people are smaller over there. I don't know what the deal is, but an XL from them is super small. So, all right. I'm a big fan of Electric Light Orchestra. I love Jeff Lynne. I love ELO. Well, Jeff Lynne has kicked off the Over and Out tour. It kicked off Saturday in Palm Desert, California. You can see videos of it. He basically relaunched Electric Light Orchestra a few years ago. They haven't toured since 2019. And guys, I don't mean to sound so blunt when I say this, but Jeff Lynne was ELO. Okay. Yeah, he had other guys, musicians in there, but he was the driving force, the creative force in ELO. He's the only remaining original member of the group. Longtime keyboardist Richard Tandy has had an occasional presence appearing on some recent stuff that they've done. Last night, they played some songs that they haven't done for a while. Fire on High from 75's Face the Music. And I love this song. Yep, a disposable little pop song, but I loved it. I was working in radio when this was a current. Calling America from 1986's Balance of Power. Do you guys remember that one? Calling America. Yeah, it was a great tune. Infectious little pop ditty. And I loved that song. So they played that live. It's great. So this will be the last tour of ELO. I don't know what that means for Jeff Lynne. If he is hanging it up, I'm not sure. One last item here. I like this guy. Okay, I like this guy. We talk a lot about bands and their legal problems and people quitting and suing each other. Look at the mess with Journey. In fact, one item that has transpired since I left on my trip to Oklahoma, we knew that they were suing each other. The latest development with Journey is that they've agreed to have a third-party arbitrator help them come in and work out their differences. So I think that's good news. But I didn't mean to talk about this. It just made me think about this because I'm going to be talking about Queensryche. Queensryche, of course, legal issues. Jeff Tate left. There were originally, I think Jeff Tate wanted to call himself Queensryche. The other guy says, no, we're Queensryche. You left, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, Todd LaTorre came in about 10 years ago as the new singer for Queensryche. And guys, I have to tell you, I like him. Okay. And we get into the whole debate. I get in argument. I got Eric Sharon, my friend. I don't want to say we had an argument, but we again had this discussion a little bit in our last Live and Dangerous about replacing people, especially lead singers. It's most obvious when you have to change lead singers is people say, well, Eric said Foreigner's not Foreigner without Lou Gramm. Some people might think Queensryche's not Queensryche without Jeff Tate, whatever. But I got to tell you, LaTorre sounds great. Okay. He sounds great. He's honest he doesn't sound exactly like Jeff Tate. But he does justice to the Jeff Tate songs. And here's the thing. This is what caught me when I saw this. Todd LaTorre still sings all the Queensryche stuff in the original key. Okay, now to a non-musician, it might not mean a whole lot. What does that mean? In fact, in this interview, he's on Metal Voice, which Metal Voice is a great podcast, by the way. He's being interviewed by the guy in Metal Voice, and And Todd makes the case that, yeah, I've sing all these Queensryche songs in the original key, and I'm not sure if people understand what that means. And he explains in detail what that means. You'll see a guy, an older singer, sing, and you go, wow, he's still hitting all the high notes. Well, or sometimes they don't hit the high notes. Speaking of Motley Crue, that's what Tucker just said. Mick Mars saga is still going on. So again, legal stuff with Motley Crue, but Vince Neil, a guy that doesn't hit the high notes. Okay, no matter what they do to the key, he can't sing them anymore, right? So that kind of fits into place here. So what many artists do over time is they bring the key down. Okay, now there's a couple ways you can bring the key down. Let's say it's in A. Okay, A is a very common key on the guitar. Guitarists like A and E because there's a lot of open strings you can use, and those are, you just kind of learn. I always learned growing up, you'd play everything in A or E. It seems like they were just easier that way. So what happens over years is they'll start to there's a couple ways you can lower down. You can actually play them in a different position, right? If I'm playing in A, I'm playing my bar chords at the 5th fret, I can actually back them down to the 3rd fret. Okay. And it's easier to sing. I've just lowered the song. I've lowered the key. It's not as much of a stretch for the singer. Or you can tune down. And it's pretty common. A lot of bands, even on the album would tune down. Van Halen was tuned down like half a step. Stevie Ray Vaughan always tuned down half a step. I don't know if that was to make it easier to sing. It also, your guitar sounds a little different when your strings are a little looser. I mean, sometimes it's part of the sound too. But the point is, Todd said they've never tuned down. So he's playing Queensryche recorded in standard tuning. They didn't tune down. And Todd La Torre is still singing all these songs in the original key. And the dude's in his 50s. Okay. Not a lot of those guys can still do it. Okay. And again, when Eric and I were talking about, hey, Foreigner's not the same band with Lou, I don't think Lou Gramm can sing the songs in the original key, where I think Kelly Hansen is. But he's even said, I can't do this much longer. Okay, granted, he's probably 10, 15 years younger than Lou. But a lot of these guys, they can't hit those notes anymore. Sammy Hagar, 76 years old, still sounds pretty good. I'm assuming they've lowered the key on, I don't know that for sure. Robin Zander, Cheap Trick, still sounds pretty doggone good for a guy he's got to be late 60s. I don't know if he's 70 yet, but same thing. Common thing for them to lower the key so it's easier for them to sing. Todd La Torre doesn't do that. I just thought that was pretty cool, pretty impressive. Tucker says, Mick Mars brings a new album out. It's a hit. Who is right and wrong, Crue or Mars, over Mars getting dumped? Pretty strange. But John 5, what a replacement. Yeah, and we've talked about Motley Crue quite a bit. That Mick Mars album is awesome. I mean, you compare that to Motley Crue's newer stuff, even with John 5, who I love. John 5 is, it'd be great. An album with Mick Mars and John 5, that would be awesome. But my point is this. Vince can't sing anymore. Okay, he's done. He was never a great singer, but now he's a guy with limited vocal talent as it was, and now he's older, so what little talent he did have, he can't do it anymore. I'm not trying to beat up on the guy. That's just the way it is. Mick Mars, fortunately, it's older for old guitarists, or it's easier for old guitarists to keep playing at a high level than old singers. That's just the reality of it, right? So it is what it is. It is what it is. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me for the daily update. Man, we went long. I just rambled and rambled. I'm so glad to be back. Had a great vacation, but glad to be back, and will be endeavoring to persevere to get more frequent updates out. Please follow us on Twitter or X. We just passed the 65,000 follower mark. If you're not following us on X, please do so at Classic Guitar R1. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook and on the World's Worst YouTube channel. Check us out there. Thank you so much. We'll do it all again later. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.